Ladies and gentlemen, as we are coming close to the end of the session, I would like to invite Academician Datuk Sri Dr. Mazlan Othman, Senior Fellow of the Academy of Sciences Malaysia, to moderate the discussion on Kuala Lumpur Declaration on Tropics. Please welcome.
Thank you, Shafi, and hello again, everyone. So thank you very much, all those people who have stuck with us from the morning. But if you have just joined us, let me welcome you. And we are at the last session of our webinar today. And we have a rather unique session because here I would like to present a declaration. It's not going to happen just yet. It's not a declaration of today's meeting, but it's a declaration for the future. Now let me explain what's going to happen in the future. Now, there will be an international conference on tropical sciences, contributions to sustainability. It will be held almost exactly a year from now, from the 28th to the 30th of June 2021. And the purpose of having this this meeting is, of course, to promote the tropics and exactly what we are doing today. What are the issues of the tropics and how do we move forward to tropics? We harness all of the benefits from the tropics at the same time, address the challenges. So for that reason, today I would like to present to you a skeleton of a framework of that declaration. Now remember, for those of you who are very well versed in this idea of a declaration, this is not even the zero draft, okay? The zero draft will come after this. This is just brainstorming for you to tell me, are there any issues I haven't covered, or you want to amplify more on certain aspects. So keep that in mind. It's a brainstorming session. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. Bashita at ASM and my team at the International Council, at the International Science Council will also take notes on what your issues are. So bear with me and I will go through the declaration, this framework. So Farah will now share the screen with us and I will explain to you why I have put in certain things. Farah, can you take up to the top of the page? This is a skeleton draft framework. And remember, this is not even the zero draft, not yet. Anyway, so the declaration will go along this line. We will see who we are, meaning that we are the participants of the international conference. We call it TropSci. You'll see, if you had joined us, you would have seen our logo, TropSci 2021. So there you go. We will trademark this very soon. Anyway, so within this framework, we would like to reaffirm certain things that have already happened. The first is which refers to today, which is the International Day of the Tropics. Go to Google and you find out all about today's, why we declared today is the International Day of the Tropics. Another document that we could usefully refer to is the London Declaration on Neglected Tropical Diseases. Again, you can find the link to this, but the London Declaration also refers to the WHO roadmap on neglected tropical diseases. However, this roadmap only goes to 2020, which is why I'm not referred to it exactly, because I think soon there will be another roadmap set out by WHO, but we'll keep watching brief on that. We could also reaffirm what was already also declared in the New York Declaration on Forests. Why is this interesting? Because it was declared at the climate, let me see my notes, my notes. It was declared at the climate summit in 2014, at the UN Climate Summit in 2014, which is the New York Declaration on Forests. Again, as I said, you could look this up and we'll see at this point, we do not amplify what those declarations say. It is good enough for us to just refer and reaffirm what has already been declared in these documents. And the next one I thought interesting is if we refer to the International Tropical Timber Agreement. You think, this is a bit unusual. Why are we talking about that? I like this one because it talks about promote the expansion and diversification of international trade. You remember that a lot of things they are in the tropics, whether it's palm oil, whether it's timber, there's so much controversy and there's so much resistance against what we stand for. And this timber agreement I like because it talks about the importance of expanding the international trade. Another one which is fairly obvious is the International Day for the Conservation of Mangrove Ecosystem. As you know, Aldri said it before this morning, 80% of the world's mangroves are in the tropics. And later on in July, we will be having another webinar on the importance of mangroves. I hope you all will join me again because it's going to be very exciting as well. And then, of course, there's the seminal work done by the people at the James Cook University on the state of the tropics. I should let you into the fact that today, the state of tropics, because of the International Day of Tropics, is also launching its report, its annual report, but they are launching it according to the New York time because of linking it to the UN. But this is not exhaustive, and I'd like to hear from you all. If these are just me going to the internet and looking at all these things that experts out there. You see, there's an issue of climate change I've not put in there, and also data. But you'll see later where I look at that. Okay, so as in any declaration, we do some things like recognize, note, value, etc. So now we, after reaffirming all those that have been declared by other documents, international documents, we then recognize about what tropical nations are, and then we recognize that tropical nations have made significant progress, but face a variety of challenges that demand attention across the world, across a range of indicators, especially in achieving sustainable development. So that paragraph sort of takes care that the tropical nations, while making significant progress, face some challenges. Again, as I said, do help me with that. And then again, now we note, what about the tropics? That as a region, as I said before, no, I haven't said this, that 40% of the world's total surface area, that is 40% of the world's total surface area, it's host to approximately 80% of the world's biodiversity. This again, I think must have been mentioned by Aldi. And much of its language and cultural diversity as well. Now, language and cultural diversity, I haven't emphasized yet, but I'm sure some of you might tell me how to put that into this document as well. Because remember, this conference on the tropical sciences is not just about tropical science, but it's science as in the natural and the social sciences. So we need to talk about people as well. And then we have then we say valuing the benefits of the tropics to the world. And this is where I need to get from you all what should be fleshed out. And then, of course, again, we are talking about specific challenges, and we are cognizant of those challenges, the challenges of climate change. Of course, there's economic pressure. Why are people cutting down forests? Why, where is the water, etc. And of course, the far-reaching implications of those issues, and in order to raise awareness. And then we emphasize again, how the tropics will play a great role in achieving sustainable development goals. And as we go along, in the next few months, we will talk about the importance of mountains in the tropics, the importance of cities in the tropics, oceans in the tropics, how they are going to influence climate change, etc. And so now I come to data where we acknowledge the wealth of existing data topics at diverse repositories. Here is where, again, you must help me in say, maybe you want to tell me where the data is, and etc. And because of all the above, we will declare certain actions that we commit to, and that will cover, again, not exhaustive, about what is the development in the tropics. What do we conserve in terms of the natural resource, agriculture? What are the special characteristics of the tropics that makes it so important for architecture and engineering to handle, to manage? And neglected disease in the tropics, we saw Prof. Yvonne speaking about it. So important. Millions of dollars go into this neglected diseases. But how do we in the tropics invest in these neglected diseases? And of course, the last one, not but of course, the need for federation of data on the tropics. I put it in the context of open science. It's not just about data, but about sharing information, policies, etc. on the tropics. Again, please help me flesh those things out. And of course, as we do in most of these declarations, we then invite nations for their commitment. We invite nations, the UN system, other international and regional organizations and civil society, NGOs, to tell them that they must pay particular attention to the needs of the tropics. What are they? Its peoples and its special environment, as well as address the specific challenges and emerging opportunities. I think I emphasize the opportunities that the tropics presents, which is why this whole thing, going up for another year from now, we're talking about the future belongs to the tropics. So there you are. So that's what I'm trying to encompass in this, and I'll be very grateful if you all could come in with suggestions, more comments, criticisms. As I said, this is a brainstorming. Nobody is right, nobody is wrong. We will all take notes. So if you raise your hand, Farah will see you and unmute you. Yes, Dr. Chai, please.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Mazlan, for inviting and having this very, very important, session. Is indeed very, very interesting. I'm Chai, I'm the chair of the Young Scientists Network, Academy of Sciences Malaysia. So I represent the young voice over here. So I think, when we talk about sustainability and particularly on achieving sustainable development goals over here, so I mean, we should actually expand, the stress on just emphasizing the role of country as a whole, but to place more focus and emphasis on, the youth or young people, young generation, that actually made up about, I think 50% of the population in many of the countries, particularly in the low and middle income countries, within the tropics. So there are about 1/5 of the world population consists of young people aged within 15 to 24 years old. However, when we look at this youth population in the low and middle income countries, they are way, way higher compared to the developed country and the average number in internationally. So in which I'm quite amazed when I read one of the statistic reported by the United Nations, that 9 out of 10 young people actually lives in less developed countries. So even in Malaysia, when we look at the statistic reported by the Department of Statistics, so half of our population is actually made up of children and young people with a median age about 25 to 26 years old, which means that half of our population are actually younger generation. So in fact, when we glance through the countries located within the tropical, so many countries are of low to middle income countries, which means the tropics are particularly facing the very challenging issues relating to the youth and younger generations. And of course, of this younger population, about half are women. So not to forget about the young women, so that they face even more challenges in the low to middle income countries in the tropics. So therefore, in my opinion, in this declaration, so we should probably urge more proactive actions and support from international and developed countries, particularly within those developed countries within the tropics, to ensure the youth and young populations from all different sectors are included in the policy development and implementation, and strengthen and facilitate young people's engagement in policies and activities that actually enhance sustainable development efforts, like, in particular in this case, like, the climate and food sustainability and so on and so forth. So this apply to the young scientist group also, like, although a lot of people say, like, oh yeah, young scientists probably, I mean, we do not belong to the group of youth because we are more than 24 years old. But I mean, relatively, like, when compared to the general age, like, within the scientists, we young scientists are considered like a baby, like, young people, so in the field. So I think to have an inclusive and diverse perspective from scientists of all ages in science policy related to all the SDG is actually essential. So I think particularly when we discuss about how to preserve diversity and environmental sustainability, we need to also take into consideration how to also, at the same time, ensuring the lifestyle, career, and the needs of the younger people are taken care of. So I think the greatest challenge over here is on how to balance between development and nature and sustainability. So in conclusion, what I want to say is that in this declaration, so I think we should add and emphasize, like, probably three main points, I mean, to conclude. So related to young and younger people, the youth and younger people. First, valuing the important role of the youth and younger population and women in realizing the SDGs. So to include and engage the youth and younger generation and women in policy activities, to enhance sustainable efforts, particularly to have an effective and policy. So thirdly, realizing the great challenges faced by the low and middle income countries in the tropic with the rising younger populations. So more, not just proactive, but aggressive strategies and support from the global developed countries and also industry, not to forget about industry. So it's very important to achieve all what we want to achieve over here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chai. Yeah, of course, if we're looking towards 2050, more than 50% of the world's population will be in the tropics. And what more important is that 67% of the young people in 2050 will be in the tropics. So, we'll be a young, energetic region. I see Professor Mahendran's hand come up. Please,
yes.
Professor Mahendran.
Thank you very much. And I think it's just to pick up on the point of Dr. Chai, I think one of the big challenge that we have, and I think across the globe, the environment and the conservation is industrial and economic activity. And I think clearly in the developing countries, while we live in the tropical climate, it also is an integral part of our economic and sustainability. So, and somehow we need to balance the two. And I think there is often this notion of trade-off between trade and the tropics. So it's a trade-off between the trades and the trade, which is economics, and the tropics that we live in, the lungs of the world. But actually, the only thing that will break that trade-off to trade benefit is actually science, technology, and innovation. You see, and I think we need to emphasize that really clearly. And I think if we really revisit the tropical as an ecosystem itself, where our existence is critical, then we need to really define as scientists what that ecosystem actually means. And I think we haven't pinned it down on what that ecosystem means. And I'll give you a concept that we've been working on how to achieve the sustainable development, because I think the discussion on tropics has been fairly nebulous and very been hijacked by, actually the scientists should be at the front of policy making and not politicians. So the scientists need to play a major role. And I think the COVID pandemic tells you a clear role that in most countries today, it is the scientists that are standing and giving evidence. And you can clearly see in Malaysian context, our Director General was giving a fantastic daily commentary in a scientific, but in a simple way. And we're seeing that across countries that have managed the COVID, it's the scientists that are standing and doing it. And I think this is the same call for the tropical issues, which is becoming more and more critical, because it is what is causing pollution. It is what is causing even some of the pandemics. It is the basis of, if you go back to the root, it requires us to revisit our fundamentals, which is where we live in. And I think we really need to understand that ecosystem. And clearly, we need to, as I can later define what that is, but clearly I think we've got to look at the infrastructure that we live in, the plants and the species. The digitization, we've got a digital revolution, but we haven't used the digital revolution to harness and manage and nurture our tropics. So where are our scientists in the, doing the geo mapping and all those things to be able to see how many orangutans do we have, how many trees that we have, are we managing it really well, right? The type of intellectual capital, the type of talent that we need. We've got a lot of generalists, but do we have specialists that can actually help us understand the ecosystem really well? So we've got to, and I'm sure we do have, but how do we, help other countries in the region? What about the incentives for researchers and scientists and policymakers and industry to actually look at our ecosystem as a key building block for existence? I think that's the declaration needs to redefine that, because otherwise, without that, I think all the policies will be just lip service. The other one is partnerships, interaction. This is 7 I's I'm talking about, actually 8 I's. Infrastructure, we need to understand what are the things that we have on the ground that supports our ecosystem. Infrastructure, intellectual capital, incentives. Do we have the right incentives in place for researchers, for industry, for policymakers to harness and unlock the value? It is not return on investment, it's return on value. I think we need to change the language. Most people say return on, if I put in money, what am I going to get now? It's actually return on value. And I hope the declaration will emphasize that. Interaction, institutions. What are the key institutions that are driving, harnessing, managing our ecosystem? I'm not sure who's managing the ecosystem. Is it Ministry of Environment? Who is it doing it? So again, I think we need to really define, and institutions cuts across not just government, but also industry associations and so on. The next one is actually on integrity. Integrity, it is really crucial, which is we need to say what we mean and mean what we say. I'll give you a simple example. We pushed really hard on environmental management, but our tax system is not supportive of electrical vehicles, solar panels in homes. So the policies don't talk to each other. The taxes on hybrid cars are very high. Shouldn't it be much more lower if we have? So this is where the policies need to be aligned to what we are telling. So I hope that the declaration will be comprehensive. One is internationalization. We need to adhere to global best practices and standards, and we need to have institutions and integrity and incentives to be leaders in standard development for, at least in the tropical climate. And this is what I mean by an ecosystem. And the 8 I's that defines who we are. And I think, it's underpinned. Without this ecosystem, the science, technology, innovation will not take place. We need to identify the technology that will help us do this. It's the scientists that need to be at the forefront of policy formulation. Thank you very much.
I see 2 hands now. First, I'll give the floor to Professor Datuk Bakar, and then after that, Prof. Joy. So please bear with me. So Datuk Bakar, please.
Yeah, thank you, Datuk Mazlan. Thank you for having invited me. For me to make my comments by having been guided by your text. Is it possible to show your text? If not, I will say my first point. I think one of the prayers that we need to introduce somehow, somewhere, I'm not sure yet where to place it. The text I would like to propose is to read this way, noting that about 70% of readily available energy on Earth is in the form of heat. And yet this renewable source of energy has yet to be explored at all and even developed to benefit the peoples and the environment. That's one of the prayers. And then when you refer to the subject of climate change, I would qualify or broaden the subject a bit. I think, and I think the text would be something like adaptation to the climate change, as well as to continue to provide the accessible access for people to gain access to treated water supply. You know, that's as important, I think, you know. And there are other aspects which I could elaborate, but I don't have the text. I mean, we can elaborate, but there's one example. You must balance climate change. Climate change is a global issue, but it does affect the locals. And the locals' perspective, I think today, I just learned about 5% of people in Malaysia have yet to gain access to treated water, you know. So that's still growing problem. And the third one, I noticed at the bottom, what's that? The bottom, development in the tropics. Yeah, so maybe better to add the qualifying adjective there, sustainable development. We declare sustainable development in the tropics. This is editorial. Okay, now I got the text. Back to the prayers, starting with cognizant of specific challenges faced by tropical areas. Then within bracket, I would read what I would like to propose. Not only adaptation to climate change, but continuing struggles in gaining access to treated water supply, affordable shelter and housing, renewable energy around us. Those are two. And then, of course, I noticed a typo there. When you say characteristics, the third Roman, the Roman 3, when we declare sustainable development, is put as a special characteristic of the tropics. Yeah, I think this subject is to me is underdeveloped. For instance, you notice in the most engineering temperate regions, right? And architecture also developed in the temperate regions, and you just use them, you know. So till today, somehow or other, our architecture using a lot of energy, aircon, over 50% of our energy expenditure to cool our houses. And I think this is very evident during the MCO. Many people complaining why their bills have gone up, right? So our modern homes not designed for the tropics. That's one example. And then a lot of things fail. You notice most expensive cars got stuck on the road, and you to analyze why they got stuck on the roads, because all the electronics disturbed by the presence of things do not work in the tropics because of high humidity and high temperature. And I think one of the programs we should emphasize in this in the tropics is to tropicalize all our products and all our innovation, all our invention. And we cannot continue to depend all these designs based in the temperate zone or under temperate conditions. So those are my 3 points that I would like to offer for this draft declaration. Thank you, Dato'.
Thank you, Baka. I will take a note of these things and where they might go in the declaration. But then I want to say one thing. you'll have to help me. You got to put your mouth, the money where your mouth is or whatever. I want to help you to help me organize a special session on engineering for the tropics, kan Azami? Because although it's architecture and engineering, they are actually two different things. And what you talk about is tropicalization is very different from the architecture and the tropics. So Baka, next session will be on engineering for the tropics. You are the engineer, kan?
Yes, yes.
Right. And of course, it's a segue to Joy on climate change, I imagine. Joy, please.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Datuk Mazlan, and congratulations right from the onset on convening this important event. Whilst the tropics, as I emphasized, would be the most important impacted region, one of the most impacted regions of the world will be the tropics, but the tropics also offer opportunities for climate mitigation, and therefore I think climate amelioration should be mentioned in the solution space. For example, in terms of climate enhancement of the tropics with respect to tropical forests, where you can have natural carbon capture and storage, and as well from the ocean, and especially the mangrove blue carbon with its great potential, again, as a climate mitigation offering for the world. So these are the two immediate things that come to mind in terms of the potential of the tropics for climate mitigation. And also, I think one aspect that we need to really bring in is the tropical physical processes, which may change in time, and this needs to be captured. We don't know if it's going to be an opportunity, what kind of opportunity it offers. So we need to have those kind of specialists involved as well. Thank you, Datuk, for this opportunity to contribute.
Thank you, Prof. Joy. I mean, we learned a lot from you this morning. Okay. Do I see? Yes, I see Ahmad Aldri. I'll come to you, Hazami, in a minute after Aldri. Thank you.
Well, hello, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thanks, Prof, for the session, for organizing and for drafting the declaration. Just a quick additional comment or suggestion. I would like to suggest that we, through this document, through the construction of this document, if we can do a little bit of analysis or a SWOT analysis, if you like identify all our strengths based on the comments that we've received so far, and also through the presentations earlier today, and also weaknesses, right? So let's push on these few points on the strengths. Especially I like the message delivered by Datuk Bakar just now. The energy, the heat and the solar. This is our strength, right? So we should write on this. I mean, gift, right? On nature's gift to the tropics, especially. So building up or developing alternative solutions by using or utilizing or exploiting solar and heat. And I remember, and this is maybe a baby project of Datuk Bakar also, the ocean thermal, right? Okay, that's a strength. And we also should write on the strength of the young generation, as pointed out by our first commentator just now. So the youth and also maybe gender, we can look at it as a strength or also as a weaknesses. So this is, I mean, to alert everyone that tomorrow the state of the tropic will launch their updated report, the latest report. So yeah, check their website tomorrow. There's a launching. So issues like poverty, issues like corruption, issues like yeah, we realize that we are losing a lot of expertise as well, right? So to quantify or to understand our resources, as a basic of that, we need taxonomies, for example. We need environmental economies, and we are losing expertise on these topics. Yeah. So cross-cutting issues like climate change, like biodiversity itself, needs this collaborative work and consolidation of expertise and data. And of course, strengths on our nature resources must be highlighted within that. So by doing SWOT analysis, or a simple SWOT analysis for the construction of this document, we can lay down the strategies, echoing from what Prof. Joy just mentioned just now. The strategies could be on mitigating and or adapting to climate change, for example. So blue carbon is our strength also, right? We only in the tropics we can find mangroves and tropical seagrasses, which are the most efficient carbon sequester in the world. And of course, being in the tropics, as highlighted also in all of the presentation earlier, most of the countries are underdeveloped. So yeah, let's push for mechanisms for carbon credit or payments for ecosystem services, because then we can sort or resort to an equitable living in the tropics. So I reckon that's at the moment. And please don't remember the triple bottom lines of sustainable development. Yeah, the environment, the people, and the economy. Or in an easier way, we can put it is people, planet, prosperity. But in some context, people use profit instead. Yeah. All right, that's about it for at the moment.
Thank you, Audrey. Yes, SWOT analysis, okay, we've got a work cut out for us. I think that's a good idea for us to convene a group of people to do this SWOT analysis. So yeah, another new adventure for us, apart from that tropics for the engineering the tropics. So now I've got 2 additional activities. I'm referring to ASM because I've only got about 6 or 7 activities I'm planning until June 2021. But then I'm referring to ASM. So let's hear what Hazami has to say, the CEO of the Academy. Hazami, please.
I think this is a very good discussion. I hope through this declaration, we can attract all main players that focusing on science in the tropics to come together under this declaration and start collaborating. I think collaborative network is the way forward because tropics is a big issue. Maybe we can mention it in the declaration to form some sort like a Trop Science Alliance. Trop Science Alliance. And I hope also by developing talents that is designed for the tropics, we want more courses that giving skills on how to do architecture, engineering that befit to come up with product and services that is suitable for the countries in the tropics. So if we can address this in the declaration, then we are more focused and we get the Academy and Mahathir Science Award Foundation organizing Trop Science 2021 is to mainstream research and development in this area to solve problems faced by the tropics, by countries in the tropics. So with this, I think if we can add that as the objective or things that we want to achieve through these declarations, then maybe every 2 years we can have Trop Science 2023, and every 2 years we can meet again and exchange activities and collaborations to ensure that we can find solutions of the problems that faced by the tropics. Thank you.
Thank you, Azami. You just given me an idea. So I don't know whether we could do it in 2021, but certainly when we have already identified the issues in 2021, and we always talked about another conference in 2 years' time. In that 2 years' time, we will have as a side event this training that you're talking about.
Yes.
Training for architecture and engineering, or training for taxonomists as an event for young people.
Yes.
So we are addressing Dr. and all the other issues about talent. And I think that's a great idea. A side, training program, as they say, a workshop. Because a lot of conferences, you see, like 3 days before, you have the workshops. for
Yes.
usually early career scientists, scientists including sociologists. I always want to mention that. In the International Science Council, we don't differentiate between social and natural scientists. So that's a brilliant idea. We definitely look at all these issues, and the issues of what are, the energy, opportunity in energy, and all kinds of ideas that I have heard here. So do I see another hand? I don't see any other hands. Is there anybody who wants to say anything else?
Dato',
Yes,
Dato',
welcome.
sorry,
Yeah.
I missed the good day session today because I got other competing events. I understand this declaration is going to be anchored by ISU, right? Am I right?
No. It will be anchored by the Mahathir Science Award Foundation and ASF. No, it just happened that I'm in my office, and of course, and we will of course be one of the sponsors of things like climate change and data. But no, it will not come from the International Science Council, Maka. It will be from the Mahathir Science Award Foundation.
Okay.
And
Right. Okay, that's clear. Right. Thank you. ISU. Okay. Sorry. Right.
Anybody? Yeah, okay. Right. So thank you so much for all these very, very useful inputs. Clearly, we'll have to have another session where, okay, Audrey, you're going to do your SWOT analysis, and that's where we're going to flesh out this declaration. Between now and that SWOT analysis, I will work to flesh out some things. And of course, it's not the end of the line right yet. I wouldn't even call the next one the zero draft. It's still brainstorming. And maybe after that, we'll have the zero draft. Because zero draft is where we go to our partners. Just as somebody mentioned, we must identify those partners. So only when I have that zero draft, after our SWOT analysis, I'll go to our partners, which will include people like the state of the tropics in Australia, or this very exciting group that I had here, It's the International Alliance of Indigenous and Tribal Tropical Forests. So exciting. I can imagine all that stuff that's going to come up from this international alliance. So we're not there yet. But such a wonderful session for me. Otherwise, I'm thinking alone. I'm walking, I'm thinking alone. And it's so good of you all to help me through this process. So, maybe I'll give the last word to Hazami and the Secretariat, because that's from me. Also, not only as a moderator of this session, but as the chair of the International Committee on TropSci 2021. Hazami, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Mazlan. I think today we have a good session, a good start, the road to Trop Science 2021. From morning, we have Prof. Joy delivering her keynotes, and then we followed by a few sessions. Just now, we just heard about open science in the tropics. So I hope this will be the first, and many, many more is coming online webinar in order for us to kick off this Trop Science 2021. So I hope more supports coming from Malaysian scientists and also scientists globally. We can see today we have scientists from UK, from Australia, from a few Southeast Asia country also joining. So this is a good start, and congratulations to all speakers and Datuk Mazlan for your hard work organizing this technical webinar today. Thank you.
I was supported by all those young analysts whom you saw today. They were moderating and really working hard from yesterday. I must tell you how to make it smooth for you all to come in. So thank you, ASF, Azami, plus all the young people there.
Thank you.
I hand it over to you again.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. So on behalf of the Academy of Sciences Malaysia and Mahathir Science Award Foundation, I would like to thank to all the viewers for their participation in the celebration of the International Day of the Tropics. I hope we will continue to support Malaysia's development in tropical science and nourish more talent to venture into this field. For those who are interested in knowing and participating in MSAF and ASM future programs, please visit our website or follow us on our social media. We hope to see you again in upcoming engagement programs. Thank you and have a good day.